Because I think knowledge is very, very important. That's why the first verse of the Quran, which was revealed to our Holy Prophet Muhammad SAW, Iqra bismi rabbikal ladzi khalaq. Iqra means to read. Okay, and I think that this is the first step for any person, for any Muslim, for them to move forward, to progress. And that's why if you study history, we find that during the golden age of Islam, okay, when Allah Subhanahu wa Taala appointed our Holy Prophet as the Prophet of Islam, he carries this message, and he was able to deliver a risalah, a message which touches upon the essence of civilization, knowledge. Okay? How knowledge can improve ourselves. How knowledge, when he received Islam, accepted Islam, he becomes a new person. For example, we take a case of Umar Khattab. Okay? He was the most feared of all during the time of Jahiliyyah. Okay? And even he buried his daughter alive. Okay? And when he remembered this, he cried. Okay? When he embraced Islam, he cried because he buried his daughter alive, because that was the practice at the time of Jahiliyyah. Okay? But now, if you see, you study history, you find as a result of the acceptance of Islam, we witness a new Umar Khattab. Okay? He accepted Islam. He not only that, he defended Islam, okay, and carried this torch of Islam wherever he goes, wherever he went. And we see, for example, in the 11th and 12th century, for example, okay, how the Muslims were able to become or able to create a new civilization. We can find scholars of Islam who are experts in all fields of knowledge as a result of reading, contemplating. Okay. And I think we need Muslims and scholars of Islam, we need students who emphasize, who see the importance of knowledge, who read. And I think this reading habit should be in us, because I think in other countries, in Korea, for example, in Taiwan, they like to read. But Muslim students, they don't like to read. This is the problem. We spend our time using PCs, because all the CDs and so forth, the accessibility of CDs, all types of CDs. We spend our time looking at CDs, VCDs, looking at videos, movies and so forth. Okay? But we spend less time reading. When we spend less time reading, we have less knowledge compared to those people who read. That's why we are far behind from other people, from other research, for example. Alright? Because looking at movies is in accordance with our nafs. Our nafs like to read, like to see movies and all these hot stuff, we call it. Okay? It is in line with our nafs, our nafsu in Malay. Alright? But reading, sometimes it is not in line with our nafs. That's why we don't like to read. Our nafs don't like to read. Okay? Our nafs like to do things which are wrong. Alright? So we have to change ourselves. Because if we do not change ourselves, then we will be having, or we will have a behavior, negative habits which will not bring us anywhere. Because if we study successful people, we will study successful people. We study anyone. For example, even if we talk to our brother Mansur, I think he's a very successful person. He's also our brother here. If we ask him, he will tell you that reading is very important. To read. And that's why, if you ask him, he's also doing, trying to find people who can find books for him, selling books. He's also doing this selling books business as well. You see, because to him books is very important. Alright? And I think we need to ponder this deeply and understand what our roles are as students of UNITAR, and I think that's why we're having this seminar. And I know that there will be more issues that will be discussed. Although numbers are not many, I think it is not new to me, because when I was in US, I was also organizing this type of seminars to Muslim students as well. The first seminar is like this, very dull, not many people, we are unhappy, we are upset because not many people come. Okay, what is important is not the quantity, but I think what is important is the quality of people coming here. The interest of knowing the issues that we want to discuss today shows that you are committed to improve yourself, to know all these new things. And I'm very happy that we have a group of students here, even though they are not forced to come, they come willingly. And I hope that your presence will benefit you. And please listen attentively to the presentation made by our brothers, and hope that we can contribute to the presentation and to the issues we are discussing today. And I will not want to talk longer than necessary. But again, I would like to congratulate our brother Abdul Rahman, who's leading the International Student Society, and also their friends, the international students who have attended or attending this seminar. And I hope that we can continue organizing this seminar and try our very best to encourage your friends to come as well. Because to me, those people who don't come is not, maybe they are studying, I don't know, but they are not getting what you're getting today. Okay, you are losing. They are losing. Okay, for example, we know that in Surah Al-Asr, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Okay, that God mentioned in this verse about time. Okay, we spend our time for some beneficial purposes, to do good things, they will benefit us in the long run. But if we do bad things, we spend our time things which are not right, and for things which are not beneficial for us, it will not bring us any benefit. Alright, I hope your presence will benefit all of you. And again, please listen attentively to the presentation. I hope that God will accept our effort as Amal Saleh. With that, Assalamu alaikum, and I launch and officiate the seminar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Inspired from what I see, we have what we have understood in the West to be a forward-moving, fast-developing, progressive nation of a majority of Muslims and open thinkers, and academia is very, very emphasized here. I'm also very impressed, being the husband of one Muslim sister and the father of two other Muslim sisters, to see, although this room is not indicative, the huge amount of Muslim women that carry the flag of Islam everywhere they go, and it is they who define this society as an Islamic one more than us men. I have 3 or 4 points I'd like to make. I hope I can do it concisely. Can I request, if you don't mind, 2 pens for this board, 2 different colors, 2 different color pens, so I can make my presentation. I'll try to make it fast and furious. In the field of Muslim political thinking, I believe that it's parallel in importance to the theories of globalization that are happening in the world right now. It doesn't mean that just because the West is thinking of globalization that it's automatically against Islam and Muslims. It doesn't mean inherently that it's against. It means, however, that we must get on the train of our own program and define our future on our own terms. So if the process of globalization actually wakes up the Muslims to this task, then it would be very important. Yes, I have. Muslim political thinkers who I've been fortunate enough, you see, before I start, I'd like to say that I was born in America, 1949. I'm the grandson of Lebanese Christian immigrants who came there on what we call the Arab Mayflower, the first Arabs that came to America in 1870 and 80. My grandparents came in 1890 from what was the crumbling Ottoman Empire in Syria and Lebanon. This was 1890, 113 years ago. And all Christian, my family is Lebanese Orthodox, Syrian Orthodox. I'm the only Muslim in my family, and I accepted Islam along with my wife back in 1974. My wife is a wonderful woman from Detroit, African American. We went through the 1960s generation of challenging and confronting the institutions of America, I should say the more ugly side of America, the racism and the poverty and the Vietnam War and the taking advantage of the poor by the strong, all these racism, all these institutions that had gone for decades unquestioned in America. Our generation of the 1960s put all of these things on the table. And then after a search for the truth of the world, we accepted Islam and that we overlooked whether the Malaysian students had their own organization, which they did, or they were part of the larger national organization of Muslim students called the MSA. Now it's called ISNA, Islamic Society of North America. The Malaysian, you see, component has always been there, but now there's very few. But back then, 20 years ago, they were the engine behind a lot of the revival of Islam, and Allah knows best. That's a little bit of my background. I've been all around the world by the grace of Allah. After having become a Muslim in 1974, I became involved in Persian, Iranian carpets and Islamic textiles, and I traveled throughout the world acquiring and restoring these things. That's how I support my family. Every man's got to do something to support his family. Anyway, in seminars that I've attended throughout the 80s, up to the present, Muslim political thinkers in that field of thinking have laid out some plans which I'd like to present in a quick way to you, parallel with the idea of globalization. We must say that the field of Islamic activities now is a different stage, a different battle is there now than 20 and 30 years ago. If you go back even 100 years ago to the revival thinkers of Muhammad Abdul, Rashid Rida, Jamaluddin al-Afghani, and such figures 100 and some years ago that gave way to the great movements of last century, like the Ikhwan al-Muslimin and the Jamaat-e-Islami, and these kind of organized groups. But those political parties and that political party approach to Islam in most of those areas have failed, and those days are over. Now I think the Muslim world is past the age of the political party. It is now in the age of the mass movement. It is in the age of the mass movement where our differences that normally separate us, race, culture, school of thought, language, whatever, these things are disappearing rapidly with the idea of globalization of the Muslims. I would say that Muslims are now in more communication, especially with the internet and email. Thoughts and ideas can travel faster now than ever before. So I think we're now in the age, I don't use the Iranian Revolution as a model necessarily, because every Muslim country will have its own, unique situation and model. But the idea of the revolution there, of a mass movement that wasn't brought from outside, it was completely internally motivated. It was a movement that won the hearts of the masses, and their collective will became irresistible to Allah, and He gave them victory. This is what's called a mass movement. In other words, they didn't join the Shah's political structure and every 4 or 5 years get a few more seats and then make some more progress, and then every 10 years they lose 50 seats and gain 10 seats. No, they came in through the mass movement method. Now, this mass movement method is a challenge to the other parties on the field today, recruiting for their movements. For instance, our brothers that look at the Islamic situation of Muslims and the political situation of the Ummah, they will say that if you join my group, then we will have success. So they kind of recruit you. For instance, our brothers in the Tablighi Jamaat, very committed, very focused. What is their crutch, however, that they lean on? They say, the problem is we have no iman. This is the problem. So if you join us, you'll get this iman and everything will be better. Okay. Another Muslim will observe and say, wait a minute, no iman. I think there's plenty of iman. Every time I go to the mosque, mashallah, young people, full mosque, I think we have more iman now than before. So that's not the problem. So it's an argument. Then you have more political-minded people like the Khilafah movement, Hizb ut-Tahrir, these others, other committed young Muslims. They say the problem with the Muslim world, not this lack of iman, it's lack of Khilafah. We have to work for the Khilafah. When the Khilafah comes, everything will be fine. And again, you can analyze it, you can accept it, and of course they recruit you because why? If you join us, the Khilafah will come, and then all of our problems will be solved. if you open your minds a little bit further, the Iranians, before the Khomeini revolution in the 70s, the Shia brothers, they would say, the problem with the Muslim world, Imam Mahdi hasn't come yet. When he comes, everything will be great. He'll fix everything, and we're going to be just doing just great when Imam Mahdi comes. What did Khomeini do, though? He turned the key. He said, no, you Iranians, you're sitting on your hands, you're lazy, you're waiting for him, Imam Mahdi, to come. By you excusing yourself from the struggle, you are delaying his return. Therefore, if you do something and prepare the ground and accelerate his coming, this is what you should do. This small adjustment within the house of the Shia brothers and sisters brought about the victory of this mass movement revolution. So, for every group that tries to recruit, this is causing today, in today's world, more division, not less division. As soon as I recruit you, or you recruit me, you're in, I'm out. Or I'm in, and you're out. There's a division. So that's why I say that the age of the mass movement, of the Muslims getting together, regardless of all these false divisions of culture, race, language, whatever. Now, to give you my point more emphatically, I'd like to show you the map of the Muslim Middle East that is now generated in the era of globalization. This is the map generated by the American and Israeli government. It's not the map that you and I are used to. Most of us Muslims look at the Middle East and Africa, North Africa, Asia, we say, okay, Morocco, well, you know the Muslim world, how it is. Let's draw a quick, here's Africa, and then Saudi, and then, okay, there's Africa here. And then you get the Middle East here, Syria, and all this there, Palestine. And then you have Syria, then you have Iraq, and then you have the Persian Gulf down here, Iran, and over here, and then Asia, and then India, and all of this, right? And then all the big Asia over here, right? Then you get Turkey over here, big Turkey over here. And then you get further down, you have Bangladesh over here, and then you come down here, and you get the Malacca, Malaysia here, and then you have Brunei, and then you have Indonesia here, which is a huge archipelago, right? Okay, that's what we normally think is the basic Muslim world, right? Now I'm going to give you the map of the Muslim Middle East according to Wolfowitz, Rumsfeld, the big shayateen, you see, who are planning, only 12 or 15 people who have taken our country, America, down the toilet. They got together 15 years ago with their Zionist counterparts and have generated something now that we are having to deal with. How is the new map of the Middle East? It's in the form of a donut. What's the middle of the donut? Israel. That's the whole focus of American policy in the world, is to focus and make Israel the center as a magnet to draw everyone toward them. What are the Muslim countries that are closest to this, let's say, this center of the donut? I think there are three. We can always discuss it. One, two, okay. One is the PNA, Palestine National Authority. The other one is Jordan. And the other one, of course, is the big Egypt. These are the three states that actually have a working peace treaty with Israel. So they will be considered the most in favor, and they're closest to the center. Then you have another group, a little bit further out, but still sympathetic and leaning toward the center. And you have a few, this is the new map, and by giving it to the young students today, and for you guys to play with these ideas, then the future of the Muslim world will look very bright. But you have to be, you have to discuss this as an opening salvo. What are those countries that are almost flushing down the toilet to Israel? One would be Saudi Arabia. In other words, they're ready to sign, and they have signed some things already. Another one would be Qatar. Another one, unfortunately, is Mauritania. Countries that have a relation, but they haven't really signed a formal, working relationship. Mauritania, you can also contribute if you think certain countries should be in this inner circle. But basically, we've got Saudi Arabia, Qatar. Morocco is a very big player. They're close to the center, but not quite in the center yet. You see, they have a way of dealing with the center. How about Kuwait? Kuwait, I'm sorry, I forgot. How could I forget? That's the other one. Kuwait should be right here. In other words, it's not any confrontation. It's more neutral and ready to be sucked into the magnet in the middle, okay? Now we're going to get a little bit further out from the center, and we'll have other states that are much further, let's say the beginning of the confrontational states, right? And of course, it's up to discussion, and it's only you young brothers and sisters that can really make the final decision, because it's your life in the next 15, 20 years that's either going to make the Muslim world have a future, or we're all going to just wave the Israeli flag. These confrontational states would be Syria, right? Let's say Lebanon, right? Let's go to, that's coming next. Let's say Pakistan, because, you know, the Pakistani masses, you know what I mean? They have a little feeling about Israel. And what else would be in a confrontation, a semi-confrontational state? You can name, for instance, well, no. I'm trying to think of all those West African states, but they're not really players in this thing yet. We're talking about those Arab central countries. That's about it, really. Pakistan, Syria, Lebanon. Now you're going to go further out, way far away. Actually, yeah. Now you're going to have the so-called extremists, you understand? The way out from the center. Fundamentalists, there you go. Here we are, putting the fun back into fundamentalism with Iran right here. Out here would be Sudan, right? I would say Libya, right? Wouldn't that be in this club? Yeah. Some people say Libya should be in here. One step further, but no, let's just say for discussion purposes, Libya is out there. Iraq. Now look what happened with Donald Rumsfeld International Airport in Baghdad now. The other side, the Israelis and the globalists on the Western side, who don't have the Muslim world interest in heart, what's the big accomplishment that they did? They can take something like Iraq, which is way out, and bring it way in, okay? When we have a puppet regime in Baghdad very soon that will sign the contract of America with their hands tied behind their back and a pencil in their mouth, they're going to be saying like this with their hands tied, then they would have succeeded in doing a great move by bringing Iraq from here, bringing it, you understand? Right into the, and what an accomplishment for them.
Afghanistan.
See, in Afghanistan, you can say Iraq and Afghanistan will soon be in the middle, not outside. So this is the map generated by the State Department and Tel Aviv. If you think it's way off and it's crazy, then perhaps you have a better understanding and should share what countries you think should be there, okay? Now, what is the Muslim response? The Muslim response, we have to realize that the Muslims have all kind of reasons. Our Islam unites us, and some of the things that divide us, we have to black box them and wait for the future. But the Islamic world has so many countries, around 50 to 60 countries, and you have resources, you have politics, recent republics, all the stands, you understand, in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, all the stands in Azerbaijan, you understand, all those Turkic republics, right? That's one orbit, that's one contiguous piece of land. Imagine, Iran and Turkey. If you do that only in your lifetime, you've done more than almost all the Sahaba, you understand? But Pakistan, Iran, and Turkey, that's one unit, north into those areas which I just mentioned, okay? Imagine the cooperation in areas of military, economic, political, cultural. I mean, it's a no, like Bill Clinton would say, it's a no-brainer, okay? It's a no-brainer. You don't have to think about it that much. I like to imitate Clinton, he's a great guy. Clinton's got an easy voice for Americans to imitate. I remember when he went to Africa, back in his administration when Clinton went to Africa, it was the first time a sitting U.S. president went to the African continent and spent so much time. It was a 6-nation, 12-day tour. And of course, he was having trouble with the ladies back then. He has trouble with the ladies all the time. He's a real ladies' man. And so when he got back to Washington, his staff said to him, Mr. President, what are we going to do about the Rwanda issue? And his answer was, Rwanda? She's lying. I didn't touch her. Okay, the third one. Call the third one, this is that Asian republic, right? Now the next one is going to be, let's say, the Arabic-speaking Confederation of Islamic States or Muslim lands. Don't worry about the name. We're going to talk about Egypt, Sudan, Somalia, Horn of Africa, Kenya, the entire Arabian Peninsula, you understand? Iraq and Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, right there. All of those countries right in there, okay? Call that the Arab one, right? This other was the Island Empire, and this one here was the, call it the Turkic, okay? Not Turkish. We don't want to get the Pakistanis angry. So, you get the Island Empire, you get the Turkic Empire, you get the Arab Confederation here. We're talking Egypt, Sudan. It's a lot of land, a lot of resource. You know? So it means what? Essentially, you have to think in terms of, is your mind wide enough to see Sudan and Lebanon and Iraq and you see Kenya being all together? Yes, you have to say yes. If you don't say yes, you have to have a better plan, okay? Then the fourth one, call it the Great Arab Maghreb of Libya, Tunis, Jazair, Morocco, then go into Senegal, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Chad, Mauritania, Mali, all this area, right? Call that the Afro-Arab, you understand? Now, if you can envision that, then it's time for us to get to work. In other words, there's a principle in Islam called the theory of reductionism, and I'm going to end on this note. The theory of reductionism is a very important one to understand in Islam. As you know, to give you an example, when you pray 5 times, you know, and then you travel, you can shorten the prayer. You can shorten the prayer and join the 5 to make it 3 times, right? You combine the Dhuhr and Asr, you combine the Maghrib and Isha. Anyway, make a long story short, if you're very sick and ill, you can pray sitting down. If you're very, very sick, you can pray lying down. If you're very, very, very sick, you can pray with the finger. This becomes the ruku and sujood. And if you don't even have the strength to do that, just the eyelashes, the eyelids can be your prayer. But what's the principle? You have to do it. Even though you can't do the whole thing properly, fully, you have to do it. To accomplish this on the board, I would like to say this could be a very ultimate place for the Muslim world to be 15, 20 years from now or 50 years from now. But if you can't accomplish all of it, even if you accomplish a little bit of it, the theory of reductionism that I just mentioned, it allows you to consider that a great success. The hadith, if you see the day of judgment coming now, and you have a date palm in your hand, the hadith says still planted. What does that mean? The day of judgment is coming. But no, even though you will not enjoy the fruits of this tree, people who you don't know 50 and 80 years from now will benefit from that. Again, it's the theory of reductionism. If you cannot accomplish the whole thing, you have to begin the process that will make this a natural outcome of the Muslims' mutual love for Allah and each other. This is only an opening of this conversation. This is only a small introduction to the thinking of some big thinkers, but all the best thinkers in the world mean nothing unless you, Muslim youth in different parts of the world, say, you know, really, 10, 15 years from now, we really should be closer to that. And if we move closer to that in our hearts, then Allah will bring it on the ground. Jazakallah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Bush was talking about the axis of evil.
Axis of evil.
So he was grouping a few states, axis of evil,
Iran, North Korea, and Iraq.
Yeah, Syria and so forth. But one after the other. After Afghanistan, we know it's going to be Iraq. After Iraq, maybe it's going to be Syria or Iran and so forth. Why don't the Muslim leaders, knowing that they will be the next one,
Yes.
why don't they get together and do something before their turn comes? That's the question for you.
I think because of the political realities of the Muslim world, we are not able to help our brothers in their time of need. Example, have we done anything as a Muslim Ummah for Palestine in 55 years? Not really. Have we done anything to help the Afghans 25 years ago when they were attacked by the Soviets? Just a few, we call Afghan Arabs, went from different parts of the world. We have issues along the way. See, Bosnia, the Muslim world, because of our political realities, we are limping from one catastrophe to the next. And not made at least some statements in this regard of getting together. But they do meet every few months and have some nice batikh and shai
and kebabs, you understand? They enjoy these kind of things, but they never accomplish anything. The OIC should be renamed. Just say, oh, I see. In other words, they don't know what's going on, but after every year or two they say, oh, I see. The Palestinian rights, defending the every square inch of the Arab territorial integrity. They don't even call it the land, they call it the Arab territorial integrity. And so they have all these flowery statements, but really it's up to no real knowledge of the Muslim world, but they are going according to their program. It's up to us to devise our own program. For instance, in America, there was a huge movement in the State Department to break down the bad relations between America and Iran, to discuss things. Even within Iran, there was a body of people who said, look, America froze our assets back in '79 when they had the revolution and took the hostages. $13 billion belonging to Iran was frozen in America. And of course, even though we don't deal in interest, they computed that if you were to add the interest to these frozen funds, then by now you've got $25–30 billion, which Iran could use desperately. So there was a movement within Iran to say, how can we approach this topic to even talk to America about this $30 billion, or even $13 billion? What signals could we give to America that we want to, you see, talk about this? That's one hand. On the other hand, you had the presidency of Mohammad Khatami, a man who I've been able to meet a couple times. Whenever he comes to the United Nations, the Iranian embassy in Washington invites me along with a handful of others to sit and talk to the President Khatami. He's called the reform president. And I'm sure that all of my friends in the Iranian orbit mostly are with him. They are saying, look, we had the revolution. Why do you bring a revolution? To bring reforms. So they had the revolution in 1979. They've been yelling and screaming and demonstrating and dying and sweating for 25 years. Now here comes the reform president. It's time to let him do his job. But unfortunately, some of the other elements in the government, so they want to go much slower and hold on to the power. Allah knows best. I think Iran is like an experiment, a laboratory right now, where if they lose this revolution because of trying to hold all the power, and the young people go in another direction, this is going to be a big disaster. Whereas if they relax a little bit, broaden the debate, make it a more progressive, open society, this will be the answer. So Khatami, you see, was winning this battle on the ground. And then when this waste of a president, George W. Bush, called them the axis of evil, then all of the dialogue people, the whole Khatami camp, went to the right, to the so-called hardliners, you understand? Khatami had to go with them. By this idiot in Washington calling them the axis of evil, he blew up the whole thing under advice from the Zionists and the Christian Zionists. So this is a real problem we have today. 9/11 has changed the whole playing field. Many of our Muslim friends and Arab brothers and others are in jail just because of their ethnicity and their religion. We have major intellectual figures in our community that are in jail, and they're treating them in a very harsh way. They know this is part of the price they have to pay for having their beliefs, but I think little by little we're winning the hearts of the Americans that see the Muslims are people who they want to know. And we American Muslims have a big test, and part of our test is to assure the American people that as the profile of Islam and Muslims rises in America, we want them to feel more safe, more secure, more international, more at peace. And this is going on in spite of the propaganda and all the designs of the opponents of Islam. More questions from the sisters and brothers? I'm going to assume, yes sir, go ahead.
Looking from the
yeah,
I don't think it's in the middle here. I don't think it's close. I don't think it's on the group that's close to the magnet. I think it's somewhere in the confrontational, resistant area, which is somewhere here, or even out here, further out. I'm thinking that in the next few years, when the American bases open up in Singapore and the Israeli advisors come in and teach them how to torture Muslims, you know what I mean? Then I think, Malaysia just might have to show its real hand. I think the Prime Minister has made some very admirable statements showing the treachery and the bad intentions of the Zionist regime without actually coming out saying, you know, kill me now, I dare you. You know, he's not this kind of guy. He's a very savvy, politically savvy man. And so he doesn't have to go to that extent. Quite honestly,
Muslims and Islam, Surah Al-Baqarah says, "Oh Allah," in the last ayat, "don't test us like you tested those before us." So it's not normal for a Muslim to go out in the street and say, "Give me some death now." No, 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 no. It's more common to say, "Oh Allah, don't test us like you tested those before us." And I think the Prime Minister has read that more than a few times. Yes, brother, you had a question?
Of all the audience here about the theories that have been made by Ismail Faruqi. The compulsory studies about Islamic civilization. What is your opinion about that? Because when we see about when we can solve the OIC rules when they are not relevant to the Islamic world nowadays, and we would like to share. Maybe you can share with us your experiences when you're dealing with the community in the US, and what we can do to overcome these kind of problems that we are dealing right now, especially we deal with our opponents from the non-Islamic community. That's all. I think these three questions.
First is the contribution of Ismail Faruqi in this.
Maybe you can examine and explain a little bit about the theories that have been brought by Dr. Ismail Faruqi. He talked about the compulsory studies for in Islamic civilization for us, especially for youngsters and for the teenagers, how they can overcome the problems. When we study about Islamic civilizations, we know about what happened in the Islamic world before us and how they can how they can survive in their life, especially with Quran and Hadith. That's all.
Actually, Ismail Faruqi, the martyr, has invented the whole field of what he called the Islamization of knowledge and the Islamization of the English language. He's done a lot of very forward-moving work. I don't claim to be an expert on his theories. I know that he has the Cultural Atlas of Islam that is there for reference. He has a very important book called Islam and the Problem of Israel, where he analyzed it from a very theological, deep argument. It's being published by one of the Malaysian publishers right now. It's republished, Islam and the Problem of Israel. He was, I think, killed by forces that wanted to hold back the development of an academic and intellectual culture of Muslims in North America. They sent someone to kill and stab him to death, he and his wonderful wife, Sister Lamia, and I believe that one daughter survived. I believe the opponents of Islam fear your general African-American Muslim mass, which is the masses of our Muslims in North America. We have 8 million, 4 million of whom are indigenous, homegrown African-American Muslims. In general, their approach to Islam is not from the academic era, academic door, but from the political and mass movement door. And if they were to enter into that field of Islamization of knowledge, this would be a very big step for Muslims, and that's, I think, why he was killed. Our task, however, is now different than it was 15, 20 years ago in North America. We have expanded the horizons of Islam over there due to conversion and immigration. Because of these two words, conversion and immigration, the playing field is much, much more different nowadays. And alhamdulillah, the young students there, like my daughters and you people here in this room, now all these departments of Middle Eastern and Arabic studies and Arabic language and all these major universities, which for years, at least in my lifetime, for 25, 30 years, these chairs were held by non-Muslims, even accomplished Jewish people, you see. But now it's politically correct to have an American Muslim be a candidate for those positions. They can no longer hide behind this good old boy network. And so now the Muslims like you folks are knocking on those doors with all of your potential contribution. I don't claim, however, to be an expert on his theory, and can't really talk that much about it. What was the other question?
Maybe you want to share with us your experiences when you live into the communities in the US, especially how you crack these youngsters and teenagers back to Islamic faith. And maybe we can do it into our small community and bring it out to our large community. Inshallah.
You're asking very tough questions, and it's something I need to prepare about 2 or 3 days to answer this question. But in general, I can say when I became Muslim 30 years ago, the mosques were not full. They were very empty. Only had a few old men with the gray beards ready to go to the final exams for the next world. And now, by the grace of Allah, a great gift has come, and all these, dark hair, hard-legged young men, you know what I mean, are populating, and women, I'm sure. Delete that remark about legs and hair. But the men and women of Islam have come out in full force now, and it's a great gift of Allah. In North America, however, when you have a society that's very open, there's the question of entertainment, whether it's Islamic or not, whether it's diverting the population or not. Great Islamic scholars have said that every house, I hate to say it, I don't want to sound offensive, but every house needs a toilet, So similarly, every city needs an area, supposedly. If you're going to open up in this way, don't say that I'm promoting this, but this is what their thinking is. Every city also needs an area where you can go for this kind of diversion, but you have to, the individual Muslim has to draw the line. Everyone draws the line in a different place. So in general, yes, when you open the society, you will lose a certain percentage of Muslim youth who are so attracted to that, like bees to the honey, right? And they are attracted to that lifestyle, and they might veer away from Islam temporarily or for a long time. That, however, is a small loss compared to the bigger gain you have in a society like Malaysia, where the expression of Islam in the Muslim youth is a voluntary one. No one is forcing them, and by them becoming and defining themselves as Muslims, knowing that it's up to them every day how to live their life, this is a much bigger victory than those small fraction of people that you might lose to the Michael Jacksons and the drugs and the free sex and all this kind of society thing that they're pushing. Of course, it would never get that far out of hand in such a society, so you have built-in safety measures, because the Muslim has to look at himself in the mirror every day. When you look at yourself in the mirror every day, you brush your teeth and you get up for prayers in the morning, that's you in that mirror. That's not your father, it's not your grandfather, it's not your ancestors, that's you there. So every day, if you will, even the people that are born Muslims in a Muslim world like this, even you have to, quote-unquote, accept Islam and convert to Islam and to choose Islam on a daily basis. And I think that's happening, and I use the Iranian model to criticize the Iranian model. The mistake they made when they had the revolution, they imposed, the word is imposed, the hijab on the women. Now, of course, who am I to say? I don't know the Iranian women. Perhaps if they didn't do that, these Iranian women who were pro-Shah, pro-America, they might just walk out, looking too provocative, you understand, and really destroy a lot of the sensitivity. I don't know, but they made the imposition. They said, you must wear. Okay. A lot of us said, wait a minute, you cannot impose this by law. It has to be voluntary. And what is happening now, 25 years after the revolution? Every year, starting 15 years ago, the scarf goes a little bit further back. They get what we call the Margaret Thatcher complex. They get that air pump. They pump a little more into the hair to make the hair get bigger and bigger. You understand? So every year, more big hair. Scarf goes back. More makeup. More jewelry. More perfume. In other words, the women are using this as a mark of their defiance. You understand? That's because it was imposed on them. Whereas if the government said, wait a minute, sisters, it'd be nice if you do this, and it'd be nice to be internally motivated, like Egypt, like Malaysia, like other places, Jordan, Syria. The mass of Muslim women, even though the model that they promote on the advertising, on the TV, who reads the news, even Al Jazeera, the Arabic news, so-called Islamic country, right? Hey, who reads the news? The woman with the biggest red lips, the most makeup, the biggest hair. Why? Because this Arab culture, they like to look, like to look like this, okay? So even though they're promoting that image on the TV, in the advertisement, what happens on the street? It's the hijab. It's on the street. In other words, they're losing the battle. And it's internally motivated, which means it's permanent, which means we have a future. My two daughters and I were walking in London about a few months ago. We're in an area up there in North London, and we're walking down the street, and a carload of young boys came by and yelled some nasty, loud obscenities at my daughters. And they were a little shocked. I said, "Don't worry, sweetheart." I explained to them, I said, "Did you ever see Wall Street when the people are bidding and raising their hand and waving and screaming and buying stocks and selling stocks and yelling and screaming? And they yell so loud. Why? Because they're either making money or losing money. The sound of a man losing a fortune is a very ugly, obscene sound. He's there on Wall Street screaming, screaming like this. Those screams from that car in London is the same scream of the, let's say, the makeup, what do you call it, the cosmetic industry, that spends billions of dollars every year to try to get the women to follow that model, you understand? And so when a woman puts the hijab from the heart, she is saying to that whole multi-billion-dollar industry, hey, that's your orbit, I got my own orbit. You see, I have my own identity. So what they're doing, they're screaming as if a man is losing his investment in that industry. And that's what the root cause of that scream is. I'm going to assume, if there's no more questions, that you agree with everything I said. And I'll look forward someday to seeing you again. Yes? Hmm?
I have 2 more questions.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, when talking about this weapons of mass destruction,
Yeah. The WMD. Yeah.
Okay, what does the poll say about the American view about why Bush decided to go into Iraq and so forth? And then now they are disclosure, you can hear that there's no such thing as WMD.
Yes, I have something. Yes.
Number 2, talk about the political parties about Islam support.
Yes.
I think that they failed.
Failed? No, no. I didn't say they failed. I said they were the proper thing 30 years ago and 40 years ago. The age of the political party.
What do you think they should do now?
What do you think they should
They have
do?
a lot of following.
Okay, first let's have some fun.
The first question about weapons of mass destruction is showing you the truth of 9/11. I'm very sorry, but just please take one and pass it around. This group is for here. This group is for here. And this is a new item produced by the anti-Bush movement. And I hope you will share it with each other and visit the websites that are listed on there.
Can you tell us what it means?
Yes, yes. It has a lot of details. It's very funny. Very nice.
One more thing.
And so, in other words, the weapons of mass destruction didn't really exist. They didn't really exist. And Washington knew that they didn't exist. They just needed a pretext. That's why many people in America now feel that the whole 9/11 was a deception, a pretext to go and do what they wanted to do. Why would they go to Afghanistan? Nobody on those, if the 15 of the 19 were Saudi citizens, what does Afghanistan have to do with that? Why didn't they come to Malaysia? You know, why Afghanistan? Why not Comoros Islands? So in other words, it was all about the UNICAL, it was all about the pipeline, it's all about the oil. They say, see, the right wing, the Bush people,
The right wing tries to make us look like fools. They say, oh, you're screaming about no blood for oil. It's all about oil. It's all about resources. It's all about domination. And that's what this whole thing is about. Your second question was regarding Ikhwan Muslimin Jamaat Islam. These models, yes. Every few years in Pakistan, the so-called Islamic parties raise their head again and take a few more seats. And as soon as anyone talks about Sharia in Pakistan, or Nigeria had a few states went to the Sharia rule, right? And then you have also in Malaysia, you have several states, about 14 states, and 2 of them are considered PAS-run states, Terengganu and Kelantan, supposed to be Sharia states, right? Now, as soon as the word Sharia comes across the screen, then all of the shayateen, they come with their words oh, they're going to cut the hands of the thief, they're going to force the women to wear the burqa and whip them and make them stay at home and do the dishes and all this kind of silly stuff. The intellectual argument, as we Muslims know, is very weak. Yet the world loves to hear about the extremists of the Sharia people, while in Nigeria, for instance, the word from the Sharia proponents was that this will only apply, it's almost like voluntary, it will only apply to those Muslims in those regions, and it will not apply to the Christians, the non-Muslims. Even though they do that, they come up with all of this propaganda. My point is the following, that when you have an Islamic party, and you recruit for it, like Jamaat Islami in any form, and you join the quote-unquote un-Islamic political system, and you try to Islamize it, like our friend Zia al-Haq in Pakistan. He tried to, what they have, Islamic banking. You know, you have 40 lanes in the bank, all of them dealing in interest. But to appease the Muslims, there's one lane at the end here, no interest banking, you see? Unfortunately, the Muslims haven't done enough deep thinking yet on this topic. If I give you, or if you give me $100,000 now to buy a house, and I tell you, I'm going to pay you back the $100,000, but I need 30 years to do it, right? You will say to me, brother, you know, you're a nice guy, but 30 years from now, that $100,000 will not have the buying power of today's $100,000. Let's be realistic. Until the Muslims come up with a deep thinking in economics and the revival of the dinar and permanent values and all this kind of thing, all these small little nation states that litter the map of the Middle East show to me the depths of humiliation of the ummah, not the unity of the ummah. I think it's only under this kind of unity platform where economics in the Muslim world will actually mean something. Then we can say, okay, there is a time value of money. This is different than saying riba or interest. And when Yusuf Ali, may Allah bless him, when he translated the Quran, what, 80 years ago, the word riba to him meant usury. Now, usury is one word, interest is another word. I'm not promoting anything un-Islamic here, but I'm saying if you're a businessman and you borrow $100,000 from the bank to do a project and your profit is another $100,000 and the bank only charges you $10,000 to use that money. So here you are, $100,000, you make it into $200,000. Then you just give $10,000 to the bank. Is that usury? I don't think it's usury. Usury means you have to pay them forever, 5 times more than what you make, and they have you enslaved. This is usury. That's what's haram. Allah knows best. I'm not an economist. Islamic banking is a little different. See, in the West, and I'm sure in the Malaysian banking, if you borrow $1 million ringgit, you have to pay it back. And whether your project is successful or not, you still have to pay it back. That's the Western economic system. The Islamic system has a little bit more heart. The Islamic system has a banking system where it says that the bank is an active partner. You gain, they gain. You lose, they lose. This is a very important principle. I'm sitting on an airplane in America a few months ago, and I had a book on Islamic economics, and the man next to me, regular American non-Muslim guy, he said, economics of Islam? Oh, I didn't know Islam had economics. I said, man, Islam had economics before you guys were, you could spell the word. And I explained to him the zakat system, the movement of money through society, the principle of zero interest. When you make $100,000 in America and you spend $90,000 living nice, you have $10,000 left, but you still have to pay the tax on the whole $100,000, and you never have the money, and you're always running from the government. Whereas in Islamic society, you make the $100,000, you live very nicely spending $90,000, you pay the zakat on the $10,000 that remains. Isn't that true? You pay on what's remaining after expenses. He said, oh really? Oh. I said, that means that the movement of money is promoted in the society. Hoarding, like in a capitalist system, hoarding money makes the cost of money very dear, and therefore the interest system. Whereas the Islamic man or woman at the end of the year, they say, okay, I've got all this money that Allah bless me, I think I'll buy a nice carpet, you know what I mean, for $7,000. Otherwise I have to pay tax, you understand? Or I buy a nice car, or help my mother do something, or my old father, you know what I mean? So the movement of money is promoted. That's different than the hoarding of money, which is the Western capitalist society, causing the interest rate. And I told the man next to me on a plane about Umar bin al-Khattab, how in his caliphate, he would worry over the people, even a goat or a camel or a donkey would be thirsty. He would think it's his responsibility. And there was a time when Islamic economics was enforced that you couldn't find the people that would accept the zakat. I'm sure you people have heard about it. You probably know much more than me. There are certain categories of who is eligible to receive zakat. There's about 7 categories, whatever. I don't know. I'm sure you know. There was nobody in those categories because the money moved. Even the poor people, when the money moves 7, 8, 10 times a year, then it's perfect with what we call, what Ronald Reagan used to call trickle-down economics. His trickle-down meant trickle more money into the rich guy's pocket, you know? But real Islamic economics is a trickle-down theory. And the poor people get their benefit as well as the wealthy. I'm sorry I got taken off track there, but I think it's time to cut this question and answer period and realize that we have other meetings to attend. I myself have a very important meeting. It has the letter T followed by the number 3, T3. They're waiting for me. Terminator 3. Thank you very much, Jazakallah khair.
I appreciate. Really, we benefit a lot of things we do now, and we never meet like this person in UNITAR, I hope. So, I know myself what I can do, and I appreciate for him being. Okay, by the way, this is one of the UNITAR international program we call intellectual discovery. Each year we do. So in this year, our program was focusing on globalization. Although the attendance are less than 100, but they are more than 50, but still the program is running, and that is a great successful. So now we are giving to Professor Said Omar to conclude, to give us his comment, suggestion, whatever he have, and to close the program. Then we will play some Safina, then we will go Makan. Welcome, Professor Omar.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. My dear brother Mansoor, and our brother Ali, thank you very much to all of you. Especially to brother Mansoor, Jazakumullah kathiran for your inspiring speech. So when I heard attentively what you said, you know, I remember Malcolm X. You know, I look at his video, the video that he made, the film about Malcolm X. You know, whenever I'm down, I will watch his video, and you know, we will feel inspired.
I'm a result of Malcolm X.
Is it? So no wonder. So when you speak, I remember Malcolm X. Very inspiring, and I feel very motivated. I can still remember when my young days when I was in US. You know, I listened to this kind of speeches. But now it's such a long time that I've not I've not heard this kind of speeches. I hope you will come again, and I hope your friends and those who can give ideas and also inspire us, motivate us can come also, and motivate all of us. And I think there are also some more speakers, so maybe from UIA and so forth, you know, who can come and present ideas and explain issues like this. Okay? And this is the first time I heard about what you said just now, and really it's something new to me. And I think all of us feel they have gained from what we have said. And I think I'm sure Brother Mansoor can elaborate more issues. There are more issues that I'm sure in his mind, and I don't know when he will come again. I hope IS maybe can save some money. Maybe after a few months, ask him to come here again and spend some money to bring him here and elaborate on other issues as well. And again, I would like to congratulate Brother Abdul Rahman for his effort to organize this seminar, and also to all of you. I hope that this seminar will continue, and the Student Affairs Department is willing to help. Given the fact that we have been successful in organizing this seminar, our Vice President, Professor Dr. Abdul Hamid, I'm just telling the audience, Professor, that Brother Mansoor has given very fine speech, very fine speech. That's why I asked Rahman to call you here. But the speech has ended, and but I think yesterday maybe Brother Mansoor can talk to Professor Hamid, our Vice President, Deputy President, on things that you have mentioned and so forth. Alright, and I hope that we can meet again. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
But you must visit those websites on the paper.
This is the time we are going to close, but luckily our Deputy President, Professor Hamid, came, so he will give us some speech about our program. I will give him the main objective of the program. The main objective of the program is to provide analysis and information about globalization and how it's going now, and will continue. So I will invite Professor Said Omar to say something about this program. Since he absent, but I hope he knows already. We give him invitation letter for a long time. So welcome, Professor. Yeah. Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First and foremost, I would like to apologize for my being late for this session. I know I have missed a lot from this seminar. I have just finished my class actually, and I came straight up here with the hope that there will be something left for me to benefit. But unfortunately, the session is ended. I hope that we will continue to have this kind of seminar. These are seminars that make us more aware of our responsibilities as world citizens, to know what's happening in parts of the world that can directly or indirectly affect our well-being. You cannot say that it's happening outside, it's not happening in Malaysia. Whether you like it or not, it's already happening. And the state of technology, if not in the hands of people who are morally inclined, can be very dangerous for our world. I think you are aware that they have drones that can go to any part of the world and attack any institution or even persons they want to attack in any country. That technology now, they have already declared publicly that they have, and they may even adopt that technology. So who decides what's right, what's wrong, is no longer something that is universally I would say accepted, but it is something that is decided by the High MIT, and the High MIT here is the one that has the greatest power. So I think the real politics of today is not the same as when we had the bipolar world, where we have the communist system and the capitalist system. Now it's a unipolar world, if I could use a word, which means that there is only one power that will decide what's right and what's wrong, as long as it suits its own interest. So it is important that we have this kind of discourses. We should be aware, at least if we can't do some impactful work, at least we will sympathize with others and support those who are doing this kind of work. It is a very threatening phase of civilization here, and unfortunately it is in the hands of people who are more interested in their position of power and the control of resources. If you read a few months back, there is an article in the Time magazine itself about the oily war. And I think a lot of people have known about this, why they are interested to attack Iraq and Afghanistan. And it is very interesting if you look at what happened in history from the time when Shah of Iran, Shah Pahlavi, was instated as the king of Iran. It was all along the ploy of the Americans and the British to make sure that their oil supply was assured at a very cheap price. So we even have at our own region here, even in Southeast Asia, it's not oil but it's water, and water is also being acquired at a very cheap price. If you look at the advertisements today, you will see that power play that's happening right now. So we have to be aware, we have to be conscious, we must be idea-centered. We cannot just be complacent and look at our objects that we have that's not going to make you survive in the future. It has to be your ideas, your responsibilities, and your awareness of what you can do to your own society and also to the world at large. Our responsibility to the people who are actually deprived of basic human rights but who have been treated with impunity by these forces. It's unfortunate, really, but I believe it is because if you have a technology that can kill people 40 kilometers away, you cannot know what suffering people have. And only when you have a concept of family of nations, family of human beings, can you feel for the others. What is happening is that how we can instill family values in bigger communities is very important. So if you live wherever you live in your own areas, I hope that you will play an active role in becoming part of that community. That's the only way. Otherwise, we will become self-interested. We think of our own family. We cannot see how people suffer outside of our vision. And that's very frightening. And this is what's happening in this modern age. And the people who have the technology, the know-how, and the bad intentions, if I may use the word bad intentions, they are planning something which is happening 20 years from now. And we are here sitting down and feeling very comfortable. So I hope, thank you very much for your presentation. I really feel that I have lost something. I could have benefited from this talk, but I hope that we will continue to have this discourse, and we hope that we will invite our guests again for the next occasion. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
It's only one reception. That's all $1.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For the firstly, to our brother Mansur. Thank you, brother Mansur, and to our special guest, brother Ali. And to our special VIP, Prof. Syed Ahmed. Yes. To Prof. Syed Omar, please. Especially for the organizer of and the president of the UNITAR Student Society, our brother Abdul Rahman, please.